This training drill ignites explosive rotational power under backward resistance, teaching Coco how to stay centered, grounded, and unshaken when pressure crashes in from every direction. But before the science of strength and balance even matters, something far more powerful has already shaken the tennis world. In Melbourne, tears fell, silence swept the stadium, and across continents an unexpected act of humanity from Alex Eala changed the emotional temperature of the entire 2026 season, reminding everyone that this is not just about forehands or rankings, but about character, humility, and the unseen heartbeat of tennis. Because this story doesn't begin with a trophy or a number next to a name. It begins with the kind of silence that tells you something unforgettable has just happened. We must rewind to Auckland, New Zealand, to the ASB Classic, where the air buzzed with early season expectations, and the crowd anticipated nothing more than another professional result, another name advancing on the draw, another routine ending to a hard-fought match. The scoreboard confirmed it. Alex Eala had defeated the experienced Magdalena in a demanding battle, and under normal circumstances the story would end there. Brief applause, a nod to the crowd, autographs, then down the tunnel to think about recovery and the next opponent. But this time the script shattered in real time. As the applause echoed, something felt different. Eala didn't smile toward her box, didn't acknowledge the umpire, didn't raise her fist. Instead, her eyes locked onto something beyond the broadcast frame, near the far net post, where an elderly cleaner quietly swept loose fuzz and abandoned balls, the invisible labor that keeps elite sport alive without ever sharing the spotlight. She wasn't part of the spectacle or the headlines, just someone doing her job as she had for years. Then Alex Eala made a choice that stopped time. Rather than turning to her bench, the 20-year-old Filipina star walked straight toward the cleaner. Security hesitated. The roar of the crowd softened into confusion. Whispers spread. What is she doing? Is something wrong? And then it happened. Eala dropped to one knee, not a stumble or a slip, but a slow, deliberate, deeply respectful motion, like a knight bowing before a higher honor. The stadium froze. The cleaner's hands trembled around her broom, disbelief written across her face, as Alex gently reminded the world who truly keeps the game standing. She reached out, took the woman's hand, and held it, and in that instant rankings, prize money, sponsorships, and status evaporated, leaving only two human beings connected by recognition and respect. Eala then reached into her bag and pulled out her used match towel, clean, untouched, symbolic, and placed it gently into the cleaner's hands. But the object wasn't the power. The power came in what followed. Courtside microphones caught fragments. Lip readers later filled the gaps, and insiders confirmed that Alex looked straight into the woman's eyes and thanked her for her work, for making the tournament possible, for helping make dreams achievable. One sentence. Simple, sincere, devastatingly human, and it was enough. The cleaner broke down in tears on center court, overwhelmed by an acknowledgement she had never received in more than 30 years of service. And Alex didn't rush away. She stayed. She held her hand. She ignored officials urging her to move on because some moments matter more than schedules. As the crowd understood what they were witnessing, confusion turned to awe. Applause returned, softer now, deeper, layered with emotion instead of excitement. Cameras scrambled. Social media erupted. Within minutes, the image of Alex Eala kneeling before a cleaner raced across the world, becoming the defining snapshot of the ASB Classic 2026. Not a trophy lift, not a match point, but an act of humility that reminded everyone why sport exists beyond entertainment. Reactions exploded everywhere. Fans shared the clip with words like respect and class. Former champions called it one of the most powerful moments in decades. Analysts stopped debating tactics and started talking about values. And even the tournament organizers, deeply moved, later honored the cleaner in a special ceremony. The ceremony brought Margaret Shun into a spotlight she had never sought but deeply deserved. And what made the moment extraordinary was what it was not: unstaged, unplanned, untouched by publicists or viral intent. with no post from Alex Eala herself and no attempt to turn it into content. When reporters finally asked, Eala fought back tears and said she was simply raised to respect everyone, especially those whose work goes unseen, while Margaret later shared that in decades of working tennis events across New Zealand, she had never been acknowledged like that, framing the towel at home as the day a champion truly saw her. Proof that this story transcends tennis, reminding us that greatness is measured not only by trophies but by dignity and respect. Yet the season moved on as it always does, from Auckland's emotion to Melbourne's unforgiving heat, and while some dismissed Eala as a feel-good viral moment, those who understand competition knew better, because beneath that humility burned a fierce hunger, and behind closed gates at Rod Laver Arena, whispers began that what started with a kneel in Auckland was only the beginning of something far bigger. Melbourne. This is where the journey continues. But remember this first. Before serves cracked at 129 miles per hour, before the draw turned ruthless, before friendships were tested and rivals sharpened their blades, a young champion reminded the world that humanity still belongs at center court, and that alone changed everything. The scene shifts from the emotional stillness of Auckland to the electric tension of Melbourne, where the sun rises early, the heat wraps the courts like a challenge, and the Australian Open announces itself not with words, but with intensity. This is where stories either grow legs or collapse under pressure, because Melbourne Park doesn't care about viral moments, it cares about survival. Alex Eala stepped onto this ground carrying more than a racket. She carried expectation, momentum, and the weight of a sudden global spotlight. And what most fans never saw happen before the gates opened, before crowds arrived, before cameras rolled. Inside Rod Laver Arena, behind partially closed doors, two figures were already locked in combat, not in a match but in something far more revealing. A private war disguised as practice, with Eala on one side, left-handed, composed, eyes sharp with calculation, and Coco Gauff on the other, the world number 3, Grand Slam champion, raw power and athletic fire in human form, trading shots with intent as the ball echoed through the empty stadium, heavy and relentless, signaling to those watching from the shadows that something significant was unfolding. This was the significance, and it was no accident. Friendships in tennis exist only until the draw says otherwise, and the draw had already whispered danger. Alex Eala and Coco Gauff placed in the same half, destiny quietly circling. That practice was the calm before a possible storm. Gauff brought her trademark ferocity, exploding into shots, covering the court with frightening speed, her forehand cracking like a warning, while Eala answered with intelligence, angles, spin, and variation, forcing hesitation, forcing thought. Power versus craft, pace versus patience. They traded rallies that stretched past comfort, neither yielding an inch as sweat poured and the early Melbourne heat offered no mercy. When a brief clip later surfaced, confirmation alone sent the tennis world into speculation, because practice partners at this level are never random. Fans asked the inevitable question, friends preparing together or rivals scouting each other before collision. The truth, as always in tennis, was both. Last season at the Italian Open they had paired in doubles, laughing, encouraging, surprising everyone with chemistry and genuine bond, but Grand Slams erase sentimentality. When the first ball is struck for real, friendship dissolves into competition, and that is why this practice mattered. It wasn't warm-up, it was reconnaissance, a quiet acknowledgement that if fate demanded it, neither would blink importantly, she must stay calm under pressure. This is where Alex Eala's strength of mind meets its ultimate test. Park's serve is a storm, relentless and unforgiving, but Eala thrives in the space between shots, in the moments most players let panic dictate action. She mixes slices, drop shots, and angles to force Parks into decision-making before the ball even lands. Every point becomes a small battle of wills, a negotiation between raw power and strategic intelligence. Coaches, commentators, and insiders recognized immediately that this was not just a first-round match. It was a proving ground, a declaration that Eala's rise isn't only about skill or viral moments, but about composure, tactical brilliance, and the capacity to survive when the margin for error is almost zero. And as the stadium buzzed with anticipation, one thing became clear. The opening round at the Australian Open could make or break the narrative for Eala, testing everything she had learned on and off the court, from the kneel in Auckland to the high-speed drills in Melbourne, where Alex Eala's mental toughness will define her as much as her technical skill. She must remain emotionally steady as Ace's rocket passed her, because Parks feeds on momentum, intimidation, and lightning-fast points designed to suffocate opponents. But Parks is human. Volatility lurks behind the cannon. Double faults appear under pressure. Frustration creeps in when rallies lengthen. And that is exactly where Eala's composure becomes a weapon. She must serve with discipline, avoid cheap errors, and consistently pressure Parks' service games, because one lapse can shatter the fragile balance. History shows Parks oscillates between dominance and chaos, and champions like Eala know how to wait, how to absorb punishment until opportunity strikes. This is where that moment in Auckland resonates. Emotional grounding isn't a soft skill, it's survival currency at Grand Slams. When the scoreboard tightens, when the crowd gasps, when a single point can turn an entire set, perspective becomes strength, and Eala has it. She has faced big servers before, built a reputation as a relentless returner, studied patterns, adjusted positioning. But Parks is different. This is the biggest stage. Pressure magnifies everything, and even if Alex survives this opening storm, the path ahead offers no relief. Second-round opponents could be Karolina Machova, world number 19, a former Grand Slam finalist of elegance and unpredictability, slicing, charging the net, and dismantling rhythm, or Jacqueline Christian, a relentless grinder, physically punishing and unyielding. There are no easy doors. Every round extracts its toll. Yet this is exactly where Alex Eala's season will be defined, not by headlines or viral moments, but by how she navigates relentless pressure, round after round, point after point, be the kind of match that people remember for years. Because legacies are not written in easy victories. They are forged in chaos under pressure, and in moments where every decision, every shot, every ounce of composure counts. Alex Eala stands at the center of this storm, 20 years old, carrying the pride of the Philippines, the hopes of a nation hungry for representation, and the gaze of a global audience that has already fallen for her character. Back home, her matches are events. Children stay up past midnight. Families gather around screens. Bars fill. Community centers buzz. She has become more than an athlete, she is a symbol. And across Asia, where tennis has long been dominated by familiar regions, every breakthrough matters. Naomi Osaka showed the way, and now Alex Eala is writing her own chapter, left-handed, mentally resilient, technically precise, and grounded by values that resonate far beyond the court. Fans root for her because they love underdogs with heart, players who carry dignity as much as skill. In just 1 week, she has reminded the world what sport can be when humanity leads. But sentiment alone will not win matches in Melbourne. Execution will. And as organizers schedule her first-round match on a prominent court, they know exactly what they are doing. This is a clash packed with drama. Viral sensation versus serve monster, humility versus raw force, patience versus power. If it stretches to 3 sets, if momentum swings, if nerves falter, it could become an instant classic. Questions hang heavy in the air. Can Eala neutralize the cannon of a serve? Can she maintain composure under relentless pressure? Can she seize break points when they appear? And if she does, how far could this run go? Beyond Parks, beyond the second round, lies the tantalizing possibility of destiny, a cinematic showdown against Coco Gauff, friends turned rivals on the grandest stage, and that possibility alone keeps the tennis world buzzing. But before dreams materialize, battles must be fought and storms endured. In Melbourne, nothing is guaranteed. everything must be earned. Alex Eala is about to discover exactly what kind of champion she is becoming. Here, everything converges. Melbourne does not allow stories to remain theoretical. It demands proof. As the Australian Open officially ignites, Eala stands at the crossroads where reputation meets reality, where viral moments fade unless reinforced by courage under fire. This is the unforgiving beauty of Grand Slam tennis. It strips everything down to a single question. Can you deliver when the world is watching? For Eala, this tournament represents far more than rounds on a draw sheet. It represents validation, opportunity, and transformation. A deep run would not just elevate her ranking, it would reshape her future, open protected seedings, elite event entries, sponsorship doors. But beyond numbers and contracts lies something heavier, the weight of sacrifice. Her journey to this stage was never smooth or guaranteed. From a nation without deep tennis infrastructure, she left home young, training far from family, missing birthdays, holidays, milestones most teenagers take for granted. Traveling across unfamiliar cities in Europe and the United States, carrying a racket and a dream, she relied on parents who poured everything into her development, emotionally, financially, spiritually, believing in her potential long before results made it obvious. And now, under the blinding Melbourne sun, that belief stands inches away from being rewarded. Yet the Australian Open does not hand out fairy tales, it tests them, starting brutally with an opening round where every point feels like a verdict on belonging. And as Alex Eala faces Alicia Parks, the contrast is stark. One armed with a 129 mph cannon, the other with patience, anticipation, and discipline. When the first serve tears past her racket, the crowd gasps, but Eala does not flinch. She resets, breathes, and approaches the baseline with the same composure she showed in Auckland, absorbing the storm rally by rally, adjusting her positioning, reading patterns, and refusing to panic, knowing that power is meaningless when rhythm is broken. As frustration creeps across Parks, face and double faults appear, the door opens for those who wait, and champions step through, signaling to the tour that Eala belongs, that she is not overwhelmed, not shrinking but competing. And even if she survives this test, the road ahead offers no mercy, with second-round opponents built to dismantle rhythm and exploit hesitation, proving that in Melbourne, nothing is given. Everything is earned image that has already transcended results. Alex Eala kneeling before a cleaner, a single act of humility that revealed the character behind the talent, and it now hovers over every point she plays in Melbourne. She stands tall against the sport's most fearsome weapons, absorbing power with patience, constructing points with intelligence, and moving through discomfort with a calm that belies her age, all while the possibility of that whispered fourth-round showdown with Coco Gauff looms. A clash of student versus star, underdog versus champion, friends on opposite sides of the net. And even if that match never comes to pass, the truth is irreversible. Alex Eala has entered the collective consciousness of tennis, no longer just a name on a draw but a presence defined by integrity, resilience, and purpose. A player who reminds the world that strength is not always loud, that courage and humanity can coexist with skill and ambition. And that is why the Philippines holds its breath, Asia watches with hope, and neutral fans across continents find themselves rooting for her, because she represents possibility, both for victory and for values. And as the tournament unfolds, as matches stack and pressure intensifies, that singular image, that moment of quiet recognition, continues to resonate above all. A young champion on one knee, honoring someone the world usually overlooks. That image carries weight. Because when Eala faces break points, when the crowd roars, when serves rocket past her, she is not alone. She carries that moment with her, a reminder of why she plays, of who she is, and of what truly matters. Perhaps that is her greatest advantage, because tennis is ruthless, but it rewards those who remain grounded amid chaos. As the Australian Open unfolds, one thing is undeniable. Alex Eala is ready, not just to compete, but to endure, to rise, to keep getting up when doors close, to never walk away, to refuse surrender. Champions are not defined by how easily they win, but by how deeply they persist, and whether she lifts a trophy or not. Alex Eala has already shown the world what a champion looks like, in heart, in humility, and in fight. And now, as Melbourne waits and the next ball is tossed into the air, the question is no longer whether she belongs. The question is how far she will go. And whatever happens next, this journey has only just begun.